Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I'm your host, Chris Horwedel. Season 2, Episode 29, Where Has the Time Gone? We're coming off a really good week last week, a really good week the week before that, and we're looking to carry that momentum on through this episode, which should be a little bit shorter than usual because we're going to talk about the men's Final Four, we're going to talk about the women's Final Four. That's going to get us 7 picks. And we're going to finish up with a little soccer pick or football for those listeners across the pond and in other parts of the world. I'm incredibly excited about how this Final Four has shaken out in the men's side. It's been crazy. It's been wild. It's been unpredictable. And we've had something of a curse here at In Pursuit of a Parlay. Whatever team we feature in the thumbnail has gone on to lose in both rounds so far. My apologies to both Houston and Kansas fans. Really thought Kansas would be playing for a national championship after that first round, but here we are. So this will be quicker, and we'll get to the women's side as well. As I say every week, thank you guys so much for the support of the show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Feel free to comment, be part of the community. It's been a blast. If you're checking us out on Spotify or the podcast provider of your choice, do all that good stuff. Follow us. Make sure you're subscribed. And again, you won't miss an episode on the podcast side. So, as always, I have bovadasportsbook.com open in front of me. We're going to be using them for all of our picks. And let's just get right into this. First game of the 2023 men's college basketball Final Four is on Saturday at 6:09 tip time. Love those 6:09 tip times. Very specific. Number 9, Florida Atlantic takes on number 5, San Diego State in what looks to be the better of the two matchups, at least the more competitive of the two matchups on the men's side of the bracket. This is an interesting Florida Atlantic team. You can't discount a team that wins 35 games in a season. I don't care what conference they play in. I don't care what division they play in. 35 games is a heck of a lot of wins. With that said, we're showing a slight favorite towards San Diego State in terms of outright victory. FAU, as you know, they won CUSA. They knocked off number 3 Kansas State in the last round, 79-76. They knocked off number 4 Tennessee the round prior, 62-55. Previously, wins over Fairleigh Dickinson and Memphis. It's funny that one non-call in that Memphis game has created this utterly bananas Final Four matchup. The team's led by humble guard John L. Davis, 13.9 points per game, shooting 49.3% from the field. And in terms of assists, Nicholas Boyd, their point guard, leads the way. 2.5 assists to go with his 8.9 points per game. Turning our attention to San Diego State, 31-6 on the season. They won the Mountain West. 1-point victory over Creighton last week, wins 57-56. They knocked off number 1 Alabama the week prior, 71-64. And before that, wins over Furman and Charleston. It's funny because this SDSU team was a team that really wasn't tested as hard as some of these other teams leading into these last couple of rounds. And then they proved their worth with wins over Alabama and Creighton. Big-time victories for San Diego State. Their leading scorer is guard Matt Bradley. In terms of assists, Lamont Butler leads the way with 3.3. So, we're showing, and by the way, this is a San Diego State -3 at Bovada here. We are showing that San Diego State is going to lose in terms of the cover. FAU covers about 55% of the time. I don't think we're going to mess around with a 3-point game, especially with how crazy things have gone thus far. I do think San Diego State's going to win this one, so we're going to take San Diego State money line -150 at Bovada, our first of our 8 picks in this week's parlay. Probably isn't going to be a gigantic number, but we're looking at winners here. Now let's talk over-under. I don't know how many of you checked out Underdog last week. We did basically an over-under episode for what was then the Sweet 16. Fun episode, and we're going to continue making the over-under picks today. FAU scoring 78.8 points per game to San Diego State 72.1. Quick math says that's 150.9 points per game. Over-under set at 171.5. Good but not great defensive teams. I think both of these teams are going to be teed up and ready to play. So we're confident here with our over. We're going to go over pick, the over 131.5 minus 110 at Bovada for our next pick, our second pick in this parlay this week. And that's going to bring the number 2 picks in up to plus 218. Continuing on. Following that 6:09 start, we've got an 8:49. Don't miss it. Don't you dare tune in at 8:51. You're going to have no idea what's going on. 8:49 p.m. Pacific time, Eastern time start. 8:49 is such a ridiculous time. Eastern time start Saturday at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Always a fun place to play a basketball game. Miami is a 5.5-point underdog in this one. It's the number 4 UConn. We're showing UConn's going to win this one about 3/4 of the time outright. But this should be a really fun game. Isaiah Wong has turned things on for the Hurricanes over the last couple of weeks after some inconsistencies previously. Miami 29-7 on the season, first place in the ACC. Coming off a win over number 2 Texas, where they won 88-81. Prior to that, a win over number 1 Houston, 89-75. And prior to that, wins over Indiana and Drake. Miami has had a tough go. In terms of who they have played to advance, I don't think anyone has earned their place more than Miami. The number 5 team here in the tournament, number 16 overall in the nation. Like I said, led by their star guard, Isaiah Wong, 16.2 points and 3.2 assists. Both leads the way for this Miami team. Now, let's take a look at UConn, probably the hottest team so far. Have not had a competitive game just yet in this tournament. They were 29-8 in the season, number 4 in the Big East. It's a tournament. It's weird. That's how it happens. They dominated Gonzaga last week, 82-54, the number 3 team in the country. Prior to that, a win over number 8 Arkansas, 88-65, number 5 St. Mary, 70-55, and an opening round victory over Iona, 87-63. So their closest game thus far has been that second round matchup against St. Mary's, and that was a 15-point win. This team is just smoking hot right now. Adama Sanogo has been a dominant force for this UConn team. Leads them with 17.1 points per game, and he does so in 26.5 minutes. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Isn't playing a ton, super efficient when he's on the court, shoots 60% from the field. Not a lot of deep threes in his game, but efficiency is the calling card for Mr. Sanogo here. And you have to think that he's going to be a handful for this team to cover. We're showing that UConn's going to cover this one about 63% of the time. And I think that is correct. I expect Miami to compete. I expect them to play hard. I expect UConn to win by 8 to 10 points. So, for our third pick in this parlay this week, we're going to take number 4 UConn, minus 5.5, minus 110 at Bovada for our next selection. Now, for the fourth pick, let's take a look at this over-under here, set at 149. Miami averages 79.4 points per game. UConn 78.5. That is 158.9 points per game. 157.9 points per game. That's what happens when we're doing math off the top of our head. Yes, 150. Yeah, there we are. Neither team spectacular defensively. UConn giving up 64.4, Miami giving up 71.9. That's in the 130 range. Man, 150 points is tough for a Final Four game. I like both of these offenses quite a bit, but I think margin of error suggests you lean towards the defense over the offense here a little bit. So we are going to take the under 149.0, which is minus 110 at Bovada, for our fourth pick in this parlay this week. And as you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, youtube.com/theunderdog or macroonpicks.com, our parlay 4 picks in plus 1,060. $1,060. Wins 100, wins $1,060 thus far. All right, let's turn our attention to the women's side of the tournament. 2 really good games with some super talented ladies playing. The first of which, my favorite women's basketball player in the country is Caitlin Clark. Her number 2 Iowa Hawkeyes go against the absolutely dominant South Carolina Gamecocks. This is going to be a tough one. Iowa 30-6 on the season. They were second in the Big Ten. Caitlin Clark, just the do-it-all player for this team. 27.3 points per game, shooting 47.4% from the field for someone who is an unbelievable outside shooter. That's crazy. 8.6 assists per contest, and coming off an absurd, just a shouldn't happen type triple-double in the last round, where all she did against Haley Van Lith and that Louisville team in 39 minutes, 41 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists, and 3 steals, shot 57% from 3. She's unbelievable. Unbelievable. However, this South Carolina team is also absolutely loaded. Talent for days. They were 36-0 on the season, the number 1 team in the country, number 1 seed in this bracket. First place in the SEC. Zia Clark leads the way in scoring with 15.1 points per game, and Raven Johnson, the leading assists woman, at 3.5. But past Zia Clark, you also have Aaliyah Boston to deal with, 13.2 points and 9.8 rebounds per game to go along with her 2 blocks. This is one of the better, more talented teams that we've seen in women's college basketball in quite a while. And it's, as much as it pains me because of my affinity for Caitlin Clark, it's tough to not go with South Carolina. Now, this is a gigantic line. Bovada has this minus 11.5. I think that's a little bit too rich for my blood. I'm not so worried about the big number versus the money line number. We're just going to have to be confident with our minus 850 on the money line. It's not going to do a ton for the parlay, but it will move us forward. It will advance us. So, South Carolina money line on the women's side will be our 5th pick. Our parlay now goes up to plus 1196. Let's talk about the LSU Virginia Tech game, the other side of this. Number 3, LSU. Number 1, Virginia Tech. And 2 really talented teams. Again, as you would imagine, LSU 32-2 on the season, second place in the SEC. Angel Reese, their star, 23.2 points per game, shooting 52.6% from the field in 33.6 minutes. Another absolute superstar is the sophomore forward from Baltimore, Maryland, Angel Reese. For Virginia, 31-4 on the season, second place in the ACC. Elizabeth Kitley, their center, leads the team in scoring, 18.2 points per game. And Georgia Amor, great name, leads the team in assists at 5 per contest. Kitley, by the way, is 6'6" center from Summerfield, North Carolina. 19.8 points and 10.9 rebounds at home this season, 18-2, 10-7 in total. And has been trying to shoot the 3 a little bit, but not exactly a strength to her game. LSU, the favorite here, being the number 3 team, despite the fact that Virginia Tech number 1 on their side, and that's where I land. We're going to take LSU. Because we're talking minus 110 versus minus 130, I'm not all that worried about the line versus the money line. We'll take LSU money line minus 130 at Bovada. Our next pick in this parlay. And that is going to bring the whole thing up to plus 2193, 6 picks in. Before we get to soccer, I did want to make one futures pick, and in order to get to that, we're going to have to make the screen a little bit smaller so the formatting changes. We're going to go up here to Final Four Specials, and we'll go March Madness Futures, because the specials will mess up the parlay. Our national champion, spoilers, the Yukon Huskies will be our pick here. They are the favorite at Bovada, minus 125 to win the national championship. And for very good reason. This team has been on fire throughout this entire tournament. And this is probably going to be a tougher game than what they get in the championship in a little bit. Although that is also messing up our parlay for reasons that are not clear to me. So, nuts to that, as they say. We are going to go here. We're going to take a look at soccer. My beloved Wrexham team is playing Oldham Athletic coming up in just a few days. 10 a.m. start on Saturday, Eastern time. Big game for Wrexham. They are tied at the top of the table, 97 points with Notts County, though have 2 fewer games played. And Oldham Athletic finds himself 14th in the National League, 39 games played, 47 points. Now, what's interesting about this is you would think when talking about a 50-point difference in the standings. For whatever reason, these games have been tight. Taking out the November 6th game, when Wrexham won 3-0, you've got a 1-point Wrexham win, a 1-point Wrexham win, a 1-point Wrexham win, and a 2-point Wrexham win. Now that's going back. Granted, there's a 17-year gap between that October 1st, 2022 game and that March 12th, 2005 game. Wrexham has brought in Ben Foster. Aaron Hayden and Thomas O'Connor are very close to back. So we're going to go 2 picks here. We're going to take Wrexham minus 0.5, minus 1, even money in the first half. At that, like I said, even money at Bovada on that pick. That now is going to take our parlay up to plus 44.86, 7 picks in. And this is an interesting one. The over 2.5 minus 185 is interesting. I do think Wrexham's going to win this one by at least 2, so we'll take full game, minus 1.5, minus 2, minus 105 at Bovada for our final pick of this parlay this week. And it's going to bring that number. It's going to break our parlay for reasons we don't know. So, in that case, some struggles here on the website this week. On that case, we'll go to my second choice, which is the over 2.5 goals, minus 185 at Bovada, and that's also going to take our parlay away for, again, reasons. Not comfortable with the over 1.5 plus 130 in the first half because Wrexham has been starting slow of late. Let's just go to the NBA. Let's go to the NBA for our final game, and we're gonna take a gimme here. We're gonna take the Sacramento Kings, who, congratulations, have made the playoffs, first time, long time. And we're going to take money line minus 1,300 over the Trailblazers, who have packed it up, are playing for nothing, have shut down Damian Lillard. Minus 1,300 will be our final pick of this parlay. There we finally get up to 8. And our parlay for this week, now 8 picks in and good and official, plus 48.39 at Bovada. So that, after some struggles, is going to be our show for this week. This has been In Pursuit of a Parlay. I've been Chris Horwedel. Thank you so much for your support. And we will see you back here next week. Enjoy the Final Four. Enjoy the championship. And I'll talk to you soon.